recently I had heard that like 70% of adult learning comes from execution.
Hey guys, it's Becky and Billy. Hey, welcome to our weekly Tidbits, where we give you tiny little gems each week to help you in your leadership journey.
We have a passion to help leaders get unstuck. So if you're serious about your leadership journey, tune in weekly. Hey guys, so welcome back.
Welcome back to our Tidbits.
So Billy, what do we got today?
Okay, so last week we talked about self-awareness, and today we're talking about learning. So as leaders, to continue to learn, right? And just, and Becky and I were talking about this before. We always talk about stuff before we hop on, but today was just the relevance of learning, right? Our world has changed obviously so much in the last 18 months that if you weren't learning new ways to reach your customers or pivoting, then you were left behind, right? And we saw some businesses, didn't make it, maybe not because of anything they did, but some businesses didn't pivot enough or didn't learn how to market in this new area. So I think, for us, learning is essential, obviously, just to keep you guys informed, but also, to keep ourselves up to date. So it's super interesting about all the different aspects that we went through over the course of the last few months. So, but Becky, what are your thoughts on just being an avid learner? Because she is, by the way.
It is so funny. I love to learn. If you guys watched the tidbit last week, you also learned that one of my strengths is a teacher. So, I've always said, like, I love to learn, but not just for me. Like, I love to learn because I want you to know about it. And, and I know I've told you guys this before, but even like when back in the day when we all worked together, I remember somebody bring up something, and I still do this today. And somebody's like, oh, blah, 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 about something that's random, totally random. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got a book about that. Oh my gosh, I read this article about that. Oh my gosh, I saw TED Talk about that. And it's just because like, I really do love to learn, and I love to learn because I do want to be relevant, and because I do want to share the things that I'm learning. And I just get so excited about learning that I hope that other people, have that same excitement. And if they don't, somehow I want to help them to get that, because I think it's critical to continue to learn.
Oh, absolutely. And Becky is, I think that's one thing that I love about her so much, is she's just so curious. And that's what makes her a great coach, I think, is because she asks all these questions, and she's a great coach, but it is that curiosity in her that brings that out. So I think that's perfect.
Thank you,
but yeah, and so she inspires me to learn more too. And so that's what we do before we do tidbits. We're always searching for information, looking for, hey, what's relevant right now? What can we talk about? And we were talking about this too, like, if you think learning's not important, think about, doctors. They have to have continuing education credits. Attorneys, everybody that is in a profession, almost all people, I should say, not everybody, but have to do continuing education, because it's so important, because our world doesn't stay the same, right? Our world changes all the time. So we have to just remember that. But one thing I was telling Becky is, like, right now, I have been on a super kick of like just listening to every podcast I can listen to, reading as many articles as I can, doing all these things. So I've got all this information that's going in, but I feel like it's gotten stuck there, right? So it's not coming out necessarily. So I think there is a point where we can take in too much, but we got to be careful that, we're not taking in so much and not releasing some of that and making space for more information. I took a walk today and I listened to 2 podcasts, I'm like, and then I came back and I was sitting at my desk and I'm just like, well, and that was great information, but what am I going to do with it? It's like, we have to at some point, like, just take up, like you said earlier today, Becky, that white space. So have some white space to be able to process that, and then, figure out how we can implement that information into our business.
Yeah. Billy, this wasn't the direction that we originally talked about for this tidbit, but you just brought that up, and I can't help myself but to say, like, having that white space is really good to, okay, what did I just learn? Now, how am I going to implement it? Okay, what's my plan? My next step to implement it. That's really critical. But what some things that I'll just share with you guys that might be really good to do that is creating the white space on your calendar. Journaling, I can't help myself but to say, like, journaling of what did I learn, so let me get it out of there and onto the paper or onto the Word doc, whatever it is, digitally. But then to be able, and Billy, you do a really good job at this. I know, like, you take your calendar at the end of the week and kind of review, okay, what did I learn this week? But not just what did I learn. And I do it at the end of the month of, okay, what books have I read? What are my, key takeaways from that? But I think it's important to have that some place of reflection. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a coach, right? Like, I do think like that's a good way to process it too, of how do I take that information now and make sure that it's not just wasted. And also we were talking about earlier, like this learning loop, right? Of like, we're continuously learning all these different things. And sometimes we're relearning what we've already learned. And then we're also learning and sharing within one another. Mm-hmm. So I think, like, just such a cool concept, but we've got to be really intentional about how am I learning, but then also what am I doing to allow space for that to really process or resonate, so that then I'm able to actually make that impactful. So it's not just about learning to be learning, but it's learning to do something better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, because like, think of how many conferences you've been to. You get the workbook, you go through the conference, you're pumped up, you're so excited. The workbook goes in your desk, and what do you do with it? So mm-hmm. I think just being intentional about that. I mean, if you are spending thousands of, because a lot of times some conferences are like thousands of dollars. If you're spending that money, it is super important to take that time that you've spent there and put some key things into action. What motivated you, at that mm-hmm. conference? What can you take back to your team or to your customers that will motivate them too? And Becky and I were also talking about like different learning styles too, right? Like, it goes along with self-awareness. Like, how do you learn best? Some people learn hands-on. Some people are visual. Some people are auditory. So, thinking about that too. If you're passing out information to your team, think about what's their best learning style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you're teaching something to someone, and I guess this is kind of feedback for us too, we should have like a visual up here. I mean, other than just us, right?
I have notes, but I can't read them.
But I do think like there is validity to that, right? Because, what I like about being able to listen a lot of times is I can pick it up really quick again. I can put it on 2.0 so I can listen real quick, and then I can get it even quicker. But if I can see like a visual on, okay, what is it that you're talking about? I do think that that's important for you as a learner too, right? Because I know, like, I learn best if I can see it. So then when I'm learning something, somebody's trying to teach me something, back to the self-awareness that we talked about last week in our tidbit, it's also about, okay, I will pick up on this quicker if you can show me a visual. And maybe it's not like a Pictionary drawing, but like something that'll just help me to move forward quicker. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I think is really interesting that recently I had heard that like 70% of adult learning comes from execution. So, with all that information that we're bringing in, we got to be making sure that we are, doing something with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so true. I think I was telling Becky, Christy Wright had a podcast the other day that said, we are addicted to input. And you think about it, well, like, if you get an elevator, what's the first thing that you do? And I'm calling myself out here, but I'll get my phone out and I'll look at it for 10 seconds from one floor to the next, so we're addicted to all this input, but then it's just kind of stuck in here. So we just got to find ways to get it out. And that execution piece, like you were saying, Becky, like, I teach training for new hires, and I tell them from the very first day, I'm like, look, I'll give you the fundamentals in here, but you are not going to learn until you're actually doing it and job shadowing and performing that task. Because I can talk to them all day long And I can give visuals, but they really need to put that into practice. And so, we challenge you when you're learning and you're on these podcasts, or, you're reading a book, don't just sit it down after you've read it and just say, oh, that was a great book, but go back to what Becky said and, take some time for reflection and say, how can this help my business, or how can this help me as a leader? And put some of those things into practice. If it resonated with you in the book, then, see if it can resonate in your business.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And the other thing that I was going to say is, like, keep in mind, like, there's different ways to learn, right? It could be, like Billy said, a conference. It could be a training. It could be a digital online training. Like, we are absolutely known for that. But then, like, share that with somebody, by sharing that. That's also yet another way to continue to instill what it is that you've actually learned, by sharing and teaching others. So I encourage you, like, first off, let us know what you're learning, because we're curious. We can't help ourselves.
Yes.
But also, like, how are you putting those things into practice? And then, what do you do with them after you've learned it? Like, do you then go out and teach other people and share with us? I can't wait to hear all about that. Like, maybe there's something else out there that we need to be learning about.
Absolutely. Let us know. We're open for sure.
Yeah. And then I also, like, we were talking about this last night, the information that we bring in now in, like, the matter of days, or even probably the matter of minutes. Like, think, like, way back in the day, like, how it would take years and years to be able to bring in some of that information. So I think, like, let's be grateful for that and not underestimate the power of knowledge that's actually out there. I mean, guys, imagine this. You decide, okay, today I want to do, I don't know, graphic design. You could literally pull up YouTube and know nothing about it. And if that is really what you honed in on and you focused on that for a minute, a while, you'd probably be able to figure it out yourself without even, like, doing, like, school or just continuing to learn through that way. Like, everything's out there. So yeah, it can be a little bit overwhelming too, but
very overwhelming.
Yeah. But share with us what you guys are learning. Again, like, this is a topic that we are absolutely constantly continuing to learn, to elevate not just ourselves, but each other, and to share with you. So share with us what you're learning about and how you're putting that into practice.
Yep. And follow us in all the places: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And let us know, like Becky said, let us know what you're doing. Is there something new that we might not have even heard of yet? So let us know.
Absolutely. All right, guys, have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.